صلى الله عليه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ما بعد. Dear esteemed viewer of Salam Television, welcome you to today's episode, session of the Alhidaayah show that comes to you every Monday and Thursday. And on Monday we are looking at Islam and science. Today is the 10th of Rajab, the year is 1445 and 22nd of January 2024. We on this show of Islam and science, we look at things that science and technology have brought for us, what benefits we get from them, and then what dangers that we are likely to have. Today we are looking at a very important aspect of plastic pollution, and to take us through the aspect of the dangers of plastic pollution, we are joined by our brother, the guest, Sekalema Hamza, who is the lecturer at the Islamic University in Uganda. May he say salam and then we shall proceed, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Sekalema Hamza, plastic pollution is a very interesting subject. Of course, plastics, we know that we use them for a number of household solutions that we have. But of late we have noticed that the world, the climate is affected greatly by this aspect of plastic pollution. So for starters, when we talk about plastic pollution, what is it? And take us through the beginning aspects of plastic pollution.
All right, now pollution essentially is a situation where you put something that causes a negative effect in a place.
Okay.
So meaning you can have pollution coming out of things like plastics. You can have chemical pollution where you have an industry, it's putting out a chemical that comes out of their manufacturing process.
Yes,
it's a waste product for them, but it causes a negative effect in the soil or etc. Whenever such a thing happens, we regard that as pollution. So particularly for plastics, we are talking of the situation where the plastics are put in a place, either the soil or in water or etc., and they begin to cause some negative effects. So we shall be looking at some of those negative effects in order to see exactly how this problem comes by.
Okay, thank you very much. So viewer, plastic pollution is, we are looking at the different impact that plastic brings on the different aspects of the environment, the soil, the water, plus even the ecosystem generally in terms of life, both the plants and animals. So where do we start from? We start with water, or
we can start with a bit of what are these plastics?
Yes.
In the first place.
Okay.
Now, plastics are actually a very useful material. If you look very careful at any environment around you,
okay,
you will see that plastics are one of the most important materials that have been invented by mankind. And indeed, if we didn't have them,
yes, please,
I believe we would be having a lot of major problems in terms of what do we really use.
Yes.
Just look at the electronics. Nearly everything is plastic. Nowadays, even vehicles. I see most of these new vehicles coming from Japan. You see the vehicle is body-wise nearly 100% plastic. So meaning, as a material in itself, this is one of the very best things that have happened to us.
Okay.
The only challenge comes from the way we use the lighter forms of the plastics. So how do we come up with these plastics? So what happens is that when we extract oil from the ground, the crude one,
crude oil, yes,
like the one we get out of the ground here in Uganda, they refine it. So when they refine it, they put off a number of products the fuels, including diesel, kerosene, which is paraffin.
Okay.
Then you also have petrol and so many other products. Now among them are some simple compounds that we call, one of them is ethene.
Ethene, yes.
Sometimes they refer to it as ethylene.
Okay.
Now initially it is not a complex substance, but scientists later found that if you can combine very many molecules of this ethene and you create a chain,
yes,
you will create something that is harder, like the way the plastics are.
Okay.
So that process is called polymerization. You know, the scientists create their words very easily.
Polymerization.
This thing called ethene is called a mer, M-E-R. So if I combine many mers and I get a more complex substance, I call that polymerization, meaning creating many mers. So polymerization. Okay. So that is the simple thing they do. Out of oil, you create some simple substances like ethene, combine them into very long chains, you create polyethylene. And polyethylene is a very good material in that you can mold anything out with it. And that's why you see it applied in so many scenarios. And it can be reinforced to create harder substances. They put in some other materials and they create harder substances, or it can be left the way it is. Now the worst part of this polyethylene is where you have it in the packaging industry.
Packaging industry, yes. Because
for the other parts where you use it in electronics, etc., it's not a major problem, because you'll create a TV out of this polyethylene, which is of course hardened.
Yes, please.
And the TV will be around for many years. Even when you are disposing of it, you don't usually just throw it around. So in that case, the polyethylene does not really have any problem. The biggest challenge comes with the packaging.
Packaging industry.
The domestic packaging area. That's where you'll find a big problem of this polyethylene. So we see it in polyethylene bags. You see the name is polyethylene. I think people may not actually realize that the word polyethylene is the name of that polymer, polyethylene.
Okay.
Now, polyethylene, when you create bags out of it, there are two options. You can create higher density bags that can be reused.
Higher density.
And those are the ones the government was trying to recommend for packaging. Meaning, instead of creating this very small body bag, where a person just uses it once and throws it away,
yes,
they were recommending that we instead use heavier body bags.
Yes.
And I think they even passed some legislation where they were talking of there's a way they measure the density of this polyethylene that is used, and they were trying to find a solution, but I think later they failed and they just left the problem to flow naturally, which is a bit of a problem. We shall see some of the solutions that are suggested.
Okay.
So meaning, once we keep using this polyethylene for packaging, you buy samosa, they put in polyethylene, you chew the samosa, you throw the polyethylene around.
Yes.
And of course, we here in the developing world, we also have that very bad culture of littering.
Of littering, yes.
Because in places where there is limited littering, you'll find that the polyethylene is there, yes, but because people usually put it in responsible places, it does not spread around very much and cause all these problems. Because the polyethylene becomes a problem when you just dump it in what you are thinking to be a landfill site. Because for it, the whole big scientific problem about it is an artificial product.
I see, yes.
So we have a graphic on the screen where they are showing us some of the really radical levels of pollution. As you can see, the city is just across, but the entire environment around is, and in this case you see even animals consuming, and we shall see some of the challenges that come when animals actually ingest this polyethylene. It becomes now a very big health hazard. And you can see landfill sites being filled with this polyethylene. So the whole idea is, once I put this polyethylene in an open space,
yes,
one, it is an artificial compound. So it is not what they call biodegradable. degradable. All the other things that we use and are natural in nature, for example, when you have a skin of an animal, etc., even if you drop it anywhere, after some few weeks, you'll come and find it's no longer there. So how does it disappear? It simply gets degraded biologically, meaning it can be consumed by just simple microorgans, and it slowly decomposes and goes away, and later it no longer even appears. But this polythene here does not actually undergo that kind of process. For it, once you drop it in a place, it will remain there intact, unaffected by anything for years and years. The other challenge is that apart from not being biodegradable, it does not allow water to pass through it. Of course, it is an advantage this side when we are using it normally. But on the other side, once water does not pass through it, it means if we saturate our land with this polyethylene, the soil now becomes unusable, because the soil essentially becomes useful when water is continuously passing through it. That's the whole idea. So if we saturate our soil with this polyethylene to the level that water no longer easily permeates through, then the land really becomes unusable. And that's the whole idea that we are talking of here.
Okay.
So that is one very big problem that it creates. You drop it on land, it simply stays there.
It is not degraded.
It is not degraded. Even 100 years it can stay, because there's nothing that is causing it to decompose. It does not rot. So all of these are problems that now begin to affect the land where you have actually put it.
Okay.
Then for the animals, remember this material is quite tough. Actually, if you look at a cavera with its very small body,
yes,
compare it to the strength that is needed to disorganize it, it is a really strong material. Now, if a cow, for example, chews this cavera and it goes into its digestive system, some problems begin to arise. Number one, the cow has an area that is called the rumen.
The rumen.
So once this cavera goes into that rumen, it fills it up. Remember, the other problem with this cavera is that because it does not allow water to pass through, neither does it allow air to pass through. If it goes into a place that has some liquid in it, it begins to create some bubbles. So it is there, for example, it is in the stomach of this animal. Any water that goes in, the thing just continues expanding until it creates all these containers that are having unmovable water. So the research shows that once this stomach begins to fill with these caveras and the other things, then it is not possible for digestion to occur in a proper way, and slowly by slowly the cow begins to fail to perform
the digestion,
the digestive function, and it starves to death. That is the main thing. So the cavera itself is not the poisonous, is not the poison that causes the cow to die, but it simply disorganizes its digestive system to the level that the cow can't take in anymore. There is no digestion ongoing, and slowly by slowly, the cow suffers and dies. And this is a very big problem. So that is one thing. Then in the oceans, now you realize that many times these caveras are not used within the oceans themselves. We tend to use these caveras on land. But because oceans are fed continuously by these rivers that are coming from land, very large amounts of plastics are carried by this
actually, I was reading on the United Nations Environmental Program. They say on average 2,000 tons per day.
Imagine. 1 day, 2,000. And remember that this cavera is a low density material. So by the time you get 2,000 tons of that cavera material, it means you're talking of very large amounts of this non-biodegradable material. So when it goes into the water, it now begins to affect the creatures that live in that water. And those creatures have an effect on how the ocean supports life here on Earth. So what happens within the ocean, of course that one maybe we may not go into the heavy biology there, but there are creatures there that keep the ocean alive and going. These sharks and all the others that control the fish populations and etc. So finally, whatever goes on in there allows that ocean to generate for us very large amounts of oxygen, and also to absorb some of the carbon dioxide. Because remember, plant life and all the other animals that exist in the ocean that can make use of all the carbon dioxide that comes from the land, it helps us in establishing that balance. Now, if you begin to pollute the ocean, putting there a lot of bovera in the ocean, and because many of these animals really, they work by simply biting the prey and swallowing. They don't do a lot of chewing, the ocean creatures. You will not find very many of them that do chewing like what we do here among the land creatures. So you'll find big numbers of animals dying just because of the presence of plastics. For the other larger animals like whales, some of the plastics are not just the simple boveras, but they are these fishing nets. Remember, they are also made out of plastic because of its advantage of being very strong and it's water resistant, meaning you can just drop the net in water and it stays there without any problem. So you'll find many of the bigger animals, the whales and etc., being captured by these nets, sometimes without intention. Of course, the person has dropped the net as the useless old net in the ocean, then the whale comes and gets entangled into it. Meaning it's not even a fishing exercise, it is just an abandoned net. And in the end, this animal slowly fails to live its life normally and dies. So once we begin to affect marine life, we are directly affecting the way the ocean operates. And in the end, the results come back to us in the negative. So that is another big problem. So we can look a bit from research. The National Geographic people have done some research regarding the way we pollute. So
as we are winding up in 5 minutes, we shall be having a short break.
Okay, so let's just go over some few statistics here as well before we go to the break. One, half of all the plastics ever made was made in the last 15 years, meaning this is not even a very old problem. So the majority of the plastic content that we see was just manufactured within the last 15 years.
That is 20, this is 2023, about 2024, about 2018 years ago.
Around 2008. Now, production increased. Around 1950, they used to produce just 2.3 million tons. That's a big amount. 1950. We are talking of 2.3 million tons. By 2015, which is also a long time ago, nearly 10 years ago, you are talking of 448 million tons. Imagine from 2.3, within a period of very few years, you are now talking of 440. And that was 10 years ago, meaning you may find this figure is now well into a billion tons. That one is another statistic we need to worry about. Every year, about 8 million tons of plastic waste escapes into the ocean from the coastal nations, those countries that are near the oceans. You'll find 8 million tons being pushed by the river system
into the oceans.
So they are saying that is equivalent of setting 5 garbage bags full of trash on every foot of coastline around the world.
A bit too much.
Then the plastics often contain additives. Remember, the thing does not work alone.
Additives.
So these additives can extend the lives of these products, because initially you may find that the original plastic in its natural form, if it was just the simple polymer, it may not survive for too long. But once they put in these additives to make it stronger, because remember we many times need it for purposes that are a bit strong, you'll find that it is able to take up to 400 years to break down.
400 years. That's what you call in physics life. What was that?
Half-life is for breakdown of chemical compounds, but this one we are not talking of physical. Meaning if I drop the plastic piece there and it's being worked on by just normal natural forces,
it takes 400 years.
It may take up to 400 years to degrade it to the level that it is now gone, I don't need to worry about it. It means when within a normal lifetime of a whole generation of human beings, you cannot be able to do away with these plastics. And this is a very big problem.
Wow. Okay. So dear viewer, we are looking at the dangers of plastic pollution, and our brother here, the guest, is breaking down it for us. Plastics come from a process that is called polymerization, and that is making more versions of what we call the MAR that he called, and then that's how you get the word polythene from the terminologies that he shared earlier on. But what we appreciate the most is that plastics have a lot of impact on the life in the oceans and the environment, aside from the oceans, even the human beings. So, and as we are going for a break, we shall be returning to look at what could be some of the solutions we can have to see that we reduce on the impacts of plastic pollution. Producer, we shall be going for a break at this particular moment now.
Eno, yes, Salam TV. Welcome to SourCon 2024, where extraordinary minds converge and aspirations take flight.
A lot of the dreams you have not done is because you're physically constrained.
Get ready to make your mark in 2024. SourCon promises to be bigger, bolder, and more inspiring than ever before. Get ready to elevate your career from good to great to unstoppable. On Thursday, 22nd of February 2024 at 8 a.m., we kick off with the Sales Warrior Convention at only 250K for all business development and sales people. And in the afternoon at 2 p.m., our keynote speaker, Vusi Tembekwayo.
People in the practice of a skill or craft. You have to practice for 10,000 hours or more.
Will elevate all professionals in the private sector, NGOs and government institutions, diving into strategies that will spark transformation in your professional journeys at only 250K. Must attend for everyone not in sales. CEOs and senior management teams, do not miss a breakfast with Vusi Tembekwayo on Friday, 23rd of February 2024 at 8 a.m. at only 1 million with the theme Leading and Scaling Your Business at the Age of Chaos, hosted by the tenacious sales warrior, Daniel Chaudhry. Our sessions are designed to provide you with actionable insights, empowering you to achieve unparalleled success at Kampala Serena Hotel. The race to excellence has no finish line. We can all do much better than we are doing now. This convention will give you nuggets and insights that will ensure you make your mark in 2024. Get your tickets now or call us if you would like to sponsor.
Emipira Jonathan Mweliri Gajiri Life ku Start Times. Nyo mirwa mipira ja AFCON okutandikanga 13 mwezi guno gwa January ku Sports Premium ne kusanyuka Prime. Sasulira Start Times yo lwalero onyumirwe emipira gina 5 live mu HD ngate tugikuweereza buterefu mu Luganda. Tokomawo wegulire simu ya Tecno Spark 20 series otebereza ani anawangula wewangulire tiketi ena kutwala okulaba final za AFCON. Kwasana ebirabo ebirala nga zi fridge, zi TV, microwave, bino byonna ng'olina okubikola nga mu 7 mwezi ogwokubiri terunnatuuka. Obubaka buno bukutuusibwako Tecno, abatongole okutuusako AFCON ku 2023.
Amos Wekesa is a spirited and devoted advocate and champion for Uganda. His never-ending optimism, curiosity, and passion for all things Ugandan can be felt in every tweet and interaction. Amos also puts his money where his mouth is by investing in domestic tourism so that people get a feel of what Uganda has to offer. Amos, a grateful nation thanks you. You are unstoppable. MTN, the unstoppable network, celebrates you. Visit GreatLakesSafaris.com and together, let's support Ugandans like Amos who are driving our country's unstoppable progress.
Omumanyi wa Salamu TV wa 2024 akubye kodi ayingidde ono akuna mchezo wandiba munamukisana wangula hijja ettaka pichipichi saako ebirabo ebirala nfofoolo janguwe wandise katikati n'omutwalo gumu gwokka weetabe mumanyi wa Salamu TV owa 2024 jangu olage ky'olinawo mutwe gwe gukweyimirira anti kibuuzo ku kibuuzo gwe ng'oyanukula ebyeddiini ebyafaayo wamu n'ebigenda maaso mu ggwanga. Omumanyi wa Salamu TV wa 2024 wakulagibwa butereevu ku Salamu TV omwezi gwa Ramadhaani gwonna. Okwewandiisa wamu n'okumanya ebisingawo wanula ennamba zino 0702 98 8 64 oba 0776 98 8 64. Omumanyi
eno ye Salamu TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewer, we welcome you back from the short break. This is the Alhidaayah show that comes to you every Monday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. and we look at the aspects of Islam, science and technology. Matters that have been developed by science and technology that have improved our lives as well as caused hazards to us. And today we are looking at plastic pollution. We've looked at how plastic is developed, the benefits. We know most of our domestic appliances and things we use in the day-to-day life come from plastic. So we want to see now solutions that we can undertake, take in mind the fact that our Messenger Muhammad said that the earth is green and beautiful and Allah has appointed you as stewards over it. He sees how you acquaint yourselves. So as a Muslim, when we go to the principles, objectives of Sharia is protection of life. You can see that if we have clear intentions, change our behavior in relation to plastics, we could stand to benefit a lot by encouraging the rest of the communities out there to also have a behavior change in terms of the use of plastics. So, Brother Sekalim, as we guided by that hadith of the Messenger Muhammad, what can be some of the solutions we can have to reduce on the negative impacts of plastic on the environment and the community?
Okay, so like we already said, these plastics in themselves, they are not a problem.
Okay.
The only problem is in the way we use them. So meaning the entire cluster of solutions, we mainly focus on improving the way we use the plastics. Because once we have a proper usage of the plastics, then the problem simply goes away. So, of course, there have been attempts by our government to outlaw.
Governments locally, yeah.
They tried to outlaw the plastics, but you see, the problem with the outlawing plastics is that you don't have an alternative material that can replace them.
Yes.
And the world does not work with vacuums, so you can't remove polythene and you put nothing. People are already having their things they are selling, and there's no way you are going to tell them to hold them by hand because you are saying you don't want plastic. So you can see that the efforts have largely failed because of the lack of alternatives.
Yes.
But in case we are sticking to the use of the plastics themselves, then one recommended approach by environmentalists is please use reusable polythene bags. So don't keep moving around and picking new kavera all the time. No, you move around with your own kavera, which is a high density kavera that you can keep putting your things in. You go to the market regularly. You have a standard package that you go with the market, so that every time you're buying things, you put in that very one. So you'll be able to live with that one kavera. You're not putting it away. and it is able to work multiple times.
Okay.
So in that case, instead of just disposing it off and throwing it anywhere, it serves the purpose. So you are still having your packaging by a Kavera, but you are not causing environmental damage because the Kavera is reusable and you are applying it. Actually, when the government was doing the banning, they had put a minimum density for the kind of Kavera that should be used. But I think the challenge comes with the cost. But if you are reusing this Kavera, even if you buy the Kavera 500 shillings or even 1,000 and you use it like the whole month before it becomes degraded, then you are even incurring a smaller cost than the one who keeps buying the small density Kavera. So for the individual person, remember, for us as Muslims, our responsibility to the planet is not to cause damage to it. So your actions, including just dumping Kavera anywhere, can result in the death of an animal and etc. And these are some of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can hold you responsible in case it is just coming out of basic carelessness. Wow. So the recommendations we are making here count on you as a Muslim, because for us our lives are guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we don't just behave any way we want. If there is an action that can prevent a danger, you have to take it. Okay. Remember, in one hadith, one of the levels of Iman, actually it's regarded as nearly the lowest, is removing a harmful thing from the road. Meaning if you are moving around and you find there's anything that can cause danger to a person, then you need to remove it. That's the minimum responsibility. So if we are talking of plastics that are causing a lot of global effect, then it becomes your responsibility individually, not as a community, to reduce on the plastic. So we have said, please use reusable Kavera. Buy a proper Kavera that has good quality and just move around with it. Whenever you are buying things, you put them there. It even reduces the cost for the one that is selling whatever items, because they don't have to keep buying new Kavera.
Okay.
Now, the second one is interesting. It is about water. Now remember, we buy a lot of packaged water. And this packaged water has those bottles. And many times we just throw away the bottle. And for it, it has even a more dense form of polyethylene. It is not like the Kavera. Kavera, you could somehow destroy it if you put enough effort. But the material that makes that plastic bottle is considerably tough. So here they are recommending stop buying packaged water. Maybe the water companies.
Should we go for bottled, for what, pot water?
The water companies will look at us badly, but for them, what they are saying, you don't need to take that commercially available water, because it's the one that is causing all this Kavera. You simply take water from your home.
Carry a package, you have
or
your own
you move around with your own container, a proper piece of plastic.
For us, the corporates, would that go well with our social standing and status?
Interestingly, by the way, in other countries, carrying food around is not looked down upon. Here in Uganda, we have a culture of looking down upon anyone that carries the food. Allah, they can even shame you in public if they see you moving around with your own food. You will come with
a container.
And once still, but I think for the case of water, many times the sports people and etc., they don't keep buying the water. It becomes very expensive. They have their own water containers that they move around with.
So in other words, you're advising us.
So that's what they are recommending here. Instead of you keeping buying that 1 liter and you drop the whatever, you move around with your water, which you've packed in a good. Now there is a good thing. These backpacks have become a common thing. So you can put your whatever there. So the approach is avoid buying too many of these bottles. And for them, remember, they are already pre-packaged. It's not like the other first case where you saw that if you come with your own Kavera, the market person will not pick a new one. They will just put in what you are having. But with the water, you can't say, Renzori, please put in this bottle of mine. So that's what they are recommending.
Actually, of late, I can see that we are having an increase in what you call dispensary water, those machines, dispensers. Exactly. Now you find that those who don't have those machines, there are options of you buy the bottle with a tap, and then you can also station it somewhere and people can have the water. But the danger with that also is that you have to buy
the
disposable cups, and they're also plastic.
So you end up again repeating yourself.
So I think the idea of us not buying water could be challenging, especially in these developing economies.
People will end up having to buy the water. Okay, for us what we are saying is for behavioral purposes, whoever can manage to move around with your water instead of you keeping on buying that water.
So you can say, Allah,
I am protecting the environment by moving around with my water.
Inshallah.
Of course, we are not saying let the water companies collapse cities. No, the water companies can actually be selling these large volume water bottles, the ones of 20-40 liters, to be used in dispensers and other places. It should be able to work.
Okay.
I understand in Dubai, water is like nearly everywhere, I think because of the desert.
Actually, most of those Asian countries, Pakistan,
you'll find the water consumption points are very many. So that one saves people from having to actually buy. Because if you know and you are sure that the water dispensation points are many, you don't need to.
So in other words, our local government, the central government should consider having water points there.
Here it may be hard because already other critical services may not be around. So telling them now to put water, we simply talk to the individual. Please, as much as possible, whenever you can be able to carry, please do it. Or at least if you have taken water and you have that bottle, put it in a responsible place.
Actually, I know of someone, they go to a shop and then they kindly ask the shopkeeper, where should I put this bottle?
Also
but to the disappointment of the person, you give the shopkeeper and you see them also just throwing it out. And then you say, my intent was to have it.
Avoid littering. And you are littering before I even go away. Anyway, these are problems these are upbringing problems. You see, Japan is one society that has set a pace no other society has been able to even reach half. Now for them, what they do, this issue of responsible living, they don't look at it as some general public thing that people should handle. It is part of the education system. Can you believe that for them they never hire cleaners in schools? A Japanese school does not have anyone called a cleaner. The students clean their own places of study, and they look at it as something of prestige. You remember when they went to the World Cup, they were beaten and ejected from the cup, but they went to the place where they were, their lockers were, and they cleaned them very well, and they even left a message, thank you, etc., and they went. That's what people that have reached a certain level of civilization are. So this problem of littering is more of a civilizational issue. The person does not even see any problem with the dumping.
Actually, normally you see people who have big vehicles, but you see after taking a bottle of water,
he throws it out. You have that big, you drop the thing there. Actually, I remember as if the government was enforcing some kind of...
put a trash bin in the car.
And they did even some few arrests. But really, we do most of our things for demonstration purposes. And it's not good, because if you are insisting that that is the way, let it be the way. But for as long as responsible living is part of our upbringing, then usually the government cannot be able to enforce it.
Our patriotism instructors kindly add the issue.
Let them add that bit of responsible living, and it should be able to
patriotism classes of later are becoming very, very common.
The other thing they are talking of is the issue of people cooking for themselves. Now you can see most of these are a way of avoiding commercial products. So for them, they are saying, instead of you keeping on ordering things from vendors, even food, you can cook food by yourself. So they do not believe that people should just keep eating commercial food, because whenever you order
fast
commercial food, they will definitely put it in some kind of plastic container. Remember, food is has some liquid element to it, so you may not provide alternatives that can.
But with this busy life that people are living currently, what would that be?
I think the so-called busy life is just imaginary. Because now if you are in a third world country like Uganda and you are saying you are very busy, so how about now people in places like Tokyo, Beijing and some of the other major cities, would they just abandon sleeping and etc.? But they do the cooking, or at least you go to the restaurant and eat from there. Don't order and have it brought to you, because whenever you order it and have it brought to you, then it becomes now an issue of littering, because you have to be given packaging. But if you directly go into the restaurant, you are nearly the same as the one that has cooked for themselves. So that's what they are recommending here.
Okay, so viewer, we are looking at some of the behavioral habits that we can adopt to help us reduce on plastic pollution. One, we said we should buy those reusable polythene bags. You know, there are those that are 1,000 each, there are those of 2,000. You know you can use it over multiple times. But when you buy these are small ones with a thin skin, you'll end up buying every time that you go shopping. Exactly. Then also, we should responsibly use packaged water. Another recommendation is that you can even carry your own water from home and then cook for yourself. If you can't, then endeavor to eat from the restaurant or the eating place that is designated. Okay, so which other...
The other issue is recycling. The other advantage with these plastics is that that material in which that plastic is in a final usable form, meaning when the manufacturer gets it, they simply melt it and they make another plastic out of it. So if we were really responsible enough, we would be collecting these already used polyethylene bags and giving them back to the manufacturer. The manufacturer will not need to do any major processing. It is already in final format. They simply melt it and create new kavera. They can even create other plastic products out of it. So meaning, one, the manufacturers themselves may need to be given incentives to do recycling. For example, the government may say, once you use recycled material, we can cut your taxes maybe by 5%. So in that case, the manufacturer is driven into making a major effort to collect the kavera that has been used. Then they reuse it. They gain by reducing their tax burden, and we finally gain as a public by having most of these kaveras withdrawn. Because my understanding is that in case you really have a way of buying these kaveras, then people will bring them, because people are looking for really anything that can earn them 1,000, 2,000. If you, for example, say every kilogram you're going to buy it maybe 500, people will collect these things and bring them over, and you can be able to, or you put collection points in many places. People will be able to collect and bring you all this kavera that is already used, and the manufacturer will even reduce their cost of production. Instead of you going into the process of working on this polyethylene, you simply pick what has already been used, melt it, and create some new materials.
Maybe before we go further, I want you to guide my viewer here on there is recycling and then there is disposing of by either burning.
Now the problem with the burning is that it creates now the other bigger problem of warming the earth, which we don't want, because that one again affects even people who are not using the very kavera. So remember, this is a hydrocarbon, some product of petroleum. You put it and burn it, it creates some very dark smoke that you don't want to associate with.
So what should
the wiser way is recycling. Simply pick that kavera the way it is, give it back to the manufacturer. The manufacturer will simply melt it and make another new kavera that will do some other purpose.
So in other words, we should also avoid burning the
the burning piece.
You can see sometimes in some organizations, actually mostly it's it in hospitals, you have a dedicated, it's called the chimney, where they collect the rubbish and then it is...
Then they burn. Now those ones, actually what's the name of that place?
I think it's an incinerator.
Incinerator,
yes.
Now for them, the things they take to the incinerator, these are very dangerous biohazard material. For example, blood. There's no way you are going to play around with the blood or any other of those syringes and etc. Things that have already come in contact with the human being, and they could potentially have an infectious element.
Yes.
So those ones you don't talk of recycling them. Those ones you have to essentially destroy them using that incinerator. And the incinerator essentially burns them at very high temperatures in such a way that even the smoke is not the kind of smoke you'd find in a normal small fire at your home. It tends to be more intense, so that it causes a greater form of decomposition.
So should this small scale consumer of polythene also have an incinerator?
It's not feasible. That person should simply find a way of delivering it to the recyclers. And I think you sometimes see people picking, especially the bottles, because the bottles, the manufacturers easily recycle them and reduce on their cost.
But now the issue, there are these bottles. People pick them and then you see they
reuse them directly.
Someone says, now what is the logic behind just cleaning it and then reuse it?
Ideally, if you clean it, I think there's no problem with
have you bought water in this taxi park so in downtown?
Where they appear to have simply repackaged the water. Now that one, the hygienic problem comes from the water itself. The bottle may not be a big problem, because remember, this is a plastic material. So the plastic is something you can wash and nothing remains on it. So per se, the bottle itself can be washed to a level of proper cleanliness. The only challenge comes with what now this person puts in. He puts in passion juice. The passion juice has come out of water that is not boiled, etc. I think that's where the challenge could come from.
Okay, as we are winding up, we have about 4 minutes.
The other recommendation, please buy in bulk. You have enough money to buy in bulk. Buy in bulk. Don't buy small things that end up causing a large pile of kavera. You can't buy 10 kilograms, 20 kilograms, so that you are only using one kavera. And remember, because in that case the volume is very big, they don't use these small polythenes. They usually give you the reusable ones. And in that case, you are saving the environment just by buying in bulk. Because some people are simply obsessed with buying in small quantities. Even when they have enough resources to do bulk purchase, they still go every day to the shop and buy and keep damaging the environment.
I have my neighbor there. For them, they always buy in bulk, but you find they are buying in bulk, but different stalls. So you go to the tomato, onions, they will put for you in the same. But you go to bread, you go to sugar, and he ends up coming with about 10 caveras.
He appears to have bought in bulk, but okay. The other thing is about now here. I think for us in Uganda, we don't do a lot of laundry work that is commercial. Most people just wash for themselves. Now in other countries, like the busy thing you were talking about, you simply pick your clothes and take to the laundry, drop them there, then they give them back to you. Now many times they put those cleaned fabrics in a kavera, or large ones. So here they are recommending, if you are taking your clothes there, you take there also the kavera, so that this person does not need to again require a new one. Now remember, the polyethylene bags in that case are reusable. So instead of you keeping on piling all these polyethylene bags that you are picking from the laundry, you simply do it in a better way. Take the clothes within their kavera, so that when they are already washed, they simply put them back. Then the last one is a public action. Let's put pressure on the manufacturers, because the manufacturers have the best solution, which is recycling. If our manufacturers can be able to recycle, then we should be able to get the best out of this entire process. But apart from just pressure on the manufacturer, we need to also put incentives that are public in nature. For example, we encourage them to use recycled material by compensating them by a reduction in taxes, something that can give this manufacturer a reason to pursue this objective. Otherwise, just forcing them may not be. And public action can work. For me, when we were growing up, you could see everyone smoking. Smoking used to be some very common thing, but do you really see any people smoking nowadays? Apart from some very few, but it all came out of serious public action, and the government also came in, banned the issue of advertising These and in other countries they went ahead and even refused the cigarette companies from decorating their boxes. You know, those boxes used to appear very beautiful. Marlboro, they put their very beautiful colors, so a person would buy it just because of the beauty of the box and ends up smoking. So they were ordered to simply produce a white box, nothing on it, so it can't attract anyone by its color. And in the end, slowly by slowly, they were able to downgrade. Nowadays, you no longer even hear the issue of smoking. Wow. Because a few years back, they would even announce BAT has the biggest contributor to the national coffers in terms of taxes. But nowadays, I think they even closed down business. So if we can do, we're not saying these polyethylene manufacturers should close business. No, we are saying let them help us by doing recycling, because that's the best solution. You keep reusing this Kavera material over and over again through responsible collection from the usage points, put it back to the industry, it generates a new Kavera. That's the most logical way. The majority of others are behavior based, and some of them would require a lot of effort. But at least if we can be able to participate in this exercise, we can reduce on the effect of these Kaveras. Remember, we have said the Kavera itself is not a problem. The Kavera is a very good material. It has very many advantages, but it's the way we use it and the way we dispose of it that causes all these very major problems, both within the land and in the oceans, as it were.
Okay, thank you very much. Dear viewer, we were looking at the aspect of plastic pollution today in this segment of Science and Technology in Islam that comes to you every Monday in the Alhidaayah show. We have noted that plastic pollution is a crisis, a reminder that all actions we all actions we make as human beings have consequences. And it is better that we now reviewed our behavioral patterns as regards the use of plastics, perhaps to help us have a change in the impact that the environment is having due to plastics. As a Muslim, remember that if you have a clear intention of protecting and conserving your environment, you will stand to benefit here on earth and the hereafter. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us with the message that we have shared. And remember, you can always get this program on YouTube, a recap of it on YouTube. Just tap in Salam Television and you'll be able to watch a whole show of it on that platform. Otherwise, we want to thank you for being such a wonderful viewership. We hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alleviates all our affairs and enables us to become better citizens and members of the community. I want to thank my guest, Mr. Sekalema, for sharing with us insights on the aspects of plastic pollution and what we can do to combat or reduce the effects of pollution. Otherwise, till next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Eno ye Salam TV. Adhan ngekutusibwako.